Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are driving the Alfa Romeo Giulia Estrema. This model of car slots in between the Veloce and the Alfa Romeo Quadrifoglio. I've always wanted to do that with an Alfa. Tonight we're driving the new Giulia Estrema. And like I said, this hopes to bridge the gap between the Veloce and the Quadrifoglio. We still have a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It makes 280 horsepower. We have an 8-speed automatic, a limited slip differential in the back, adaptive suspension, and lots of carbon fiber, and a very nice interior. Let's start this up. We'll walk you around this new Giulia, show you what it looks like inside and out, and talk about what it's been like to live with this week. Let's start with this interior. This is an absolutely gorgeous space. We have lots of leather, beautiful seats, carbon fiber trim, contrast red stitching, lots of beautiful Alfa Romeo accents. This interior feels very European. It's very nicely appointed and beautifully designed. A very nice place to be. We have nice, clear, sharp analog gauges for our tachometer and speedometer, as well as our fuel gauge and temperature gauges. And then here in the middle, we have a digital information display, which shows us a number of things like our safety systems, our speed, trip computers, and long-term fuel economy. Here's our infotainment. Pretty straightforward setup, no big surprises here. We have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity, some performance pages, a menu to show us our climate control, vehicle information. We have 3 different drive modes in this Giulia: D for dynamic, N for natural or normal, and A for all weather, DNA. And in dynamic mode, you can change the adaptive dampers to soft or just the default setting, which is a little bit stiffer, but still pretty nice ride quality. Let's walk you around this outside. We'll show you the exterior, and then we'll talk a bit more about this car and take it for a drive. This is actually the first Alfa Romeo press loan we've had in I think ever that I can remember. Maybe back in the Winding Road days we had one a long time ago. We've driven a few Giulias since then, mostly the Quadrifoglios, but I've been actually really excited to get into this Giulia with a 4-cylinder. I've heard really good things about the Veloce, and this Estrema just takes things up a notch. We have beautiful 19-inch alloy wheels wrapped in 225 40 R19 Pirelli tires. Nice looking brakes too. We have this Estrema badge here on the side, carbon fiber mirror caps, a dual sunroof setup, one for the front seat passengers, one for the rear seat passengers. Nice looking back seats too. This Giulia competes with the likes of the Genesis G70, the BMW 3 Series. I think it is a beautiful, beautiful little car. Love this red. It's called Alfa Rosso. Some more carbon fiber accents here in the front end. Beautiful Alfa Romeo badge. Let's show you out back in the trunk. Here's what the key looks like. Double press to pop the trunk. About an average amount of space back here for a vehicle this size. Do we get a spare tire? I don't believe we do. Still, a 60/40 folding rear seat. You can fold those down with 2 levers back here, which is nice. Little grab handle to close the trunk. Dual exhaust with black tips. Oh yeah, and this Giulia Estrema in rear-wheel drive starts at around $56,000. All-wheel drive is an option. Seated behind myself at 5'10". I have enough space back here. It's definitely a little bit smaller of a vehicle, but I've always thought that sports sedans in this class are just about the right size. Not too big, not too small, just enough. And their driving dynamics benefit from that. Let's pop the hood. This has a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. It's rated for 24 miles to the gallon in the city, 33 miles to the gallon on the highway. Pretty efficient paired with this 8-speed automatic. It makes 280 horsepower and 306 pound-feet of torque. A little bit of plastic up top, but I still appreciate that Alfa Romeo makes their engines look like engines. You can see the connections here for the adaptive dampers. Nice lightweight hood. Beautiful, beautiful sedan, especially in this red. This is a very unique looking interior. All Alfa switchgear, no FCA, no Stellantis parts. This is all Alfa Romeo, and I love that. Really nice quality buttons. They have kind of a rubber outline here. Physical controls. A very simple, easy to use interior. Very driver friendly. The only con is there's no traction control off button anywhere in this car. Not in the menus, not in here, not hidden on the side. You can't disable traction and stability control in this. We have a wonderful chassis to play with. I don't think that's a huge issue for most drivers, but for the purist, for the enthusiast, that could be a deal breaker. That said, let's take this for a drive and see how it does on the road. Love the little Italian flag colors here below the shifter. Tiny little reverse camera with parking sensors. Still shows you what you need to see. You can see those work. Pretty good visibility all around too. Nice lightweight steering at low speeds. The steering wheel is perfect. Oh, and we have these absolutely fantastic metal paddle shifters that are fixed behind the wheel. Look at that. Stop start. We'll turn that off. So we'll start out in natural mode. This is a nice everyday driving mode. Shifts from this 8-speed automatic are pretty smooth. The engine is still responsive. Suspension is nicely tuned. A great ride handling balance. I love the steering in this Alfa. It's a pretty quick rack, but there's a lightness and a nimbleness to this car that is really pleasing. The 8-speed does a great job utilizing the torque from this 2-liter turbo as well. Makes excellent shift decisions. Let's go into dynamic mode. Use these wonderful paddle shifters. Pretty quick shifts, nice and responsive. That's very good. Very satisfying. You have quick access controls for Apple CarPlay. I found this infotainment to be a little bit laggy on first startup, but once it warms up, once it kind of begins to wake up after you've been driving for a few minutes, it seems to respond pretty quickly. The display is really nice, really sharp. I love the design of all the menus. Everything in here is very cohesive from a design perspective. Even in dynamic mode, ride quality is excellent. Alfa has done a great job tuning these adaptive dampers to still be comfortable while providing excellent cornering grip and balance. All right, first corner, chucking this in. It's so neutral. Wonderful lightness to the steering. Such a good chassis with this Giulia. I've heard a lot of people who I know have driven the standard Giulia and just praised its chassis to high heaven, and I've got to say, I'm not disappointed, aside from the fact that you can't turn off traction control. We'll go back into N and set cruise control. Super simple button layout on the steering wheel. Everything is very straightforward, clearly marked. Physical controls, none of this haptic nonsense. You can ease easily adjust your cruise control settings, skip 5-mile-an-hour increments with a double press of this toggle switch, or 1-mile-an-hour increments with a slight press. You have 3 different following distance settings. Adaptive Cruise seems to do a pretty good job. Doesn't linger too long when passing slower vehicles. Very comfortable car here on the highway. Wind noise is kept to a minimum. I love these seats. They feel about as good as they look. We have a classic little crumb collector down here. Excellent bolstering. I'm 5'10", about 150 pounds, and they fit me perfectly. All right, let's switch back into dynamic mode. I'm gonna put those active dampers into soft. See how that feels. Brake pedal is kind of the only place where I'm a little bit disappointed with this car. It takes quite a bit of pedal travel to actually get some braking force to happen, but once you get into it, the pedal's nice and firm and has pretty good modulation. Bite's a little bit low, but also this car only has 600 miles on it. Brakes might not be completely bedded in yet. I love that Alfa maintains the proper shift pattern, forward for downshifts, back for upshifts, and it will let you downshift pretty liberally. It's not going to hold you back. Red line's about 6,000 RPM. This does have a limited slip differential, and you feel it coming out of corners. It puts down traction very well. Makes it a little bit more challenging to push the limits of the stability and traction control in this car, which you can't disable. I'm still a little bit bummed about that. I gotta admit, if I were driving this in the winter, I wonder how all-weather mode handles the snow with rear-wheel drive, or if that's going to be a problem for some drivers. It is quick. 280 horsepower feels pretty healthy in this Giulia. Oh, I love this 8-speed. These paddles just make the driving experience that much better. The 2-liter turbo sounds pretty good. No gimmicks, no piped in noise, just pure engine sound. Let's do a quick 0 to 60. No brake torquing, just rolling into the throttle. Front end is so willing to turn in. This Giulia is beautifully set up to corner. It's so neutral. I just wish you could exploit that chassis a little bit more and be able to turn off some of the nannies in this. Overall, guys, I have really enjoyed driving this Alfa Romeo Giulia Estrema this week. It's been a wonderful, wonderful little daily driver. It delivers on all the promises that I've heard from this chassis being just excellent. I love this interior. I love the way it looks. It's such an agreeable, enjoyable little car. For around $55,000, I've definitely driven cars with worse interiors. This is a beautiful, beautiful place to spend time. This Estrema package really brings it more upscale, upmarket. The carbon fiber accents, the contrast stitching, the steering wheel. and all the dynamic changes they made to this Giulia really complement it well. The 2-liter turbo has enough power, enough character. Again, if you want to go full insanity, you can always get the Quadrifoglio, but for something that's fun to drive, feels a little bit more special than some of the competition, and just looks fantastic inside and out, I think this makes for a pretty good overall package. Just a subtle difference between the stiffer damper setting and the soft setting. Alright guys, so how can we sum up this Alfa Romeo Giulia Estrema? Well, a lot to like here. A really nice, well-rounded package. Great driving dynamics. Love this 8-speed transmission. As a bonus, you get fantastic supercar level paddle shifters back here. This 2-liter turbo is a nice engine. It's not blowing me away. I would love to have a sweet sounding V6 or something else in exchange, but it's got enough personality to keep you interested. It's very fuel efficient, and there's enough power here. It seems to be paired beautifully with this 8-speed automatic. Drive mode is nicely differentiated. I think if you live somewhere where you're going to be seeing inclement weather, any winter, you probably want to swing for the all-wheel drive Giulia just for that extra traction. I like that Alfa gives you a lot of physical controls, buttons, simple, easy to use switchgear. It's not overly complicated. Not a ton of stuff is hidden deep into the infotainment. You get quick access controls for just about everything you need. This is also a touchscreen. It's a little bit laggy, but it works, and CarPlay seems to be responsive enough. Let's test out this Harman Kardon sound system real quick. Oh, we also get redundant controls down here and kind of an iDrive style scroll wheel. And decent, I'd say it's on par with a lot of the other Harman Kardon units from BMW, for example, or competitive units in Genesis cars, stuff like that. Feels about right for the price point. Alright guys, that's going to be it for the Alfa Romeo Giulia Estrema. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments. We'll wrap up the review there. Great to finally get behind the wheel of an Alfa Romeo for an extended period of time. Hopefully we can drive the Stelvio and compare that in this trim, and maybe even get into another Quadrifoglio at some point. Alright guys, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.